Hello, Tech Pros, episode 96.
Again, the key is to communicate with people how they want to communicate. And it's amazing what relationships you can build up when you do that. And it may even take guts on your part sometimes. It may hurt, it may feel awkward. But if you communicate with people how they want to communicate, it makes all the difference in the world.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Tim Priebe. Happy Friday, Tim.
Happy Friday.
Are you ready to wind this week down and jump into Entrepreneurship Saturday and hopefully some Sunday being unplugged?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
We're almost there. So close. So close. But first, we'll cover the People Friday. But first, Tim Priebe is an author, columnist, and owner of the TNS Online Marketing. He's been working on websites since 1997 and his experience in areas including search engine optimization, blogging, email newsletter marketing, social media, among other stuff. Tim is the author of several online marketing books, including 102 Tweets, Blog a Week, and Online Marketing Mindshift. So Tim, let's see, 1997. What was I doing in 1997? I wasn't building websites yet. I don't think I started doing website development until maybe 98 or 99. I started doing some Java back then. But in 1997, I was doing Macromedia Director, which is kind of the precursor to Adobe Flash. It was like old school animation tool, right? Where you're kind of dragging sprites around on the screen and making them sing and dance and pop and jump and doing all this kind of stuff. And we were building basically websites, right? Things that looked and acted like websites or HTML5 websites today. Well, not even that, but it was on the computer and it was published via CD-ROM because the bandwidth on websites back in 1997 was so horrible that if you wanted, a couple of megabytes worth of pictures, let alone audio and video and all that kind of stuff, is like, well, package it up on a CD.
Yeah, you didn't have time to wait for that to download, definitely.
Do you remember that sound? Like I remember that sound from 1997. You know what sound I'm talking about?
I don't know which sound.
Oh,
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The whole I wasn't building websites yet, but about 90. I graduated high school at 96, so we were fortunate enough. My dad was a nerd, and so we at least had a separate phone line for our modem at the house. But yeah, the whole risk of is if someone picks up the phone elsewhere in the house, you're bumped offline. Yeah, that was crazy to think about the things we don't even worry about anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. And goodness bless tech dads that, first of all, appreciate technology and allow you to have a second line in your house just for the modem. Unfortunately, I had to wait until I had my own apartment before I was able to get an extra phone line dedicated to a modem because my stepdad was like, "You gonna be calling up dadgum NASA or something? Get us the police down on us, or what if we got emergency calls? Somebody calls us." I'm like, "There's no emergencies that we can respond to. Like, we're not the fire department. Come on, man. Like, nobody literally is gonna call us with emergency and be like, Bostic family, we need you here on the double."
That's right.
So.
Yeah, my household, it was actually, let's be honest, it was probably mostly for my dad to actually have the separate phone line because he didn't want my mom knocking him offline anymore. But certainly we kids, me more than my sister, definitely made use of that as well. So yeah, good times. Such slow download speeds back then. Horrible to think about.
Well, what else was different about working on websites? So professionally, when you got into developing websites and doing all that kind of stuff, and then through the evolution of search engine optimization and blogging, and we could go into a lot of different podcast episodes and all that kind of stuff, but just kind of give us a sample of what are the big takeaways you've seen in the last 18, 20 years.
Sure, sure. Well, and so I don't know. I don't recall offhand exactly when Google launched, but it was certainly not a big deal if it was even around in '97. I remember Web Crawler, which I think now is actually still exists, but it's some sort of compilation of search engine results. But I remember that was the search engine tool I used when searching. MapQuest, again, don't know the exact dates. Seems like it was brand new back then, and that was kind of the big deal too. But it was, yeah, it was it. People don't remember. There's a time where search engines did not search all the content on a page,
Mm.
and so meta tags, meta descriptions were way bigger back then than they are now. They're still not a bad idea to include, but they certainly don't accomplish what they accomplished back then. I mean, man, table-based layouts, so slicing stuff up into tables and then trying to make sure it all expanded. I still remember trying to wrap my head around CSS for layouts, and it was just such a different world, but obviously much better that way, and we haven't looked back. Sadly, email coding has not changed much since '97. If you do any custom email templates, it about looks it's a little bit more, but not far off of what it was in '97. But my first website was actually on GeoCities. So it was definitely not for professional.
Nice.
It was not a professional thing on GeoCities. I then advanced to where I had my own kind of nerdy collecting website, and I remember I split it across 4 or 5 different AOL screen names because each screen name would get its own web space. And then I finally paid $75 a year for my first domain name, and it was just a .com. Yeah. So there are definitely some vanity top level domains now that cost that much, but yeah, it was just a plain Jane.com, and it was $75 a year, and I thought, man, this is a great deal. And little did I know it was going to drop so drastically over the next 20-ish years. So it's yeah, a lot has changed. Definitely a lot has changed. More. I mean, like you were just talking about, more graphic heavy now. Video. I mean, you couldn't. There's no way you could have done video. Barely any audio back in '97. People still were trying. The Trailblazers, which you got to have that. But yeah, it's just night and day from what it was before. Definitely.
Yeah, right around '98, I think the company that I work for doing that Macromedia director stuff, we transitioned into the world of webcasting, and everybody in technology, everybody I talked to, nobody knew what webcasting was. I didn't know what webcasting was. But there was one individual in the company that said, "You know what? This is going to be the future of the interwebs." And I've discovered some hacking / stuff around. What was it called? It's called Windows Media Player or something.
Sure. Yep.
Way back in the day, and you could actually insert a URL field into the data stream while the video was playing, and you could change that dynamically. And so we built an entire industry based off of that one little trick that Marshall back in the day discovered. And yeah, it was really, really fun, but things thank goodness things have changed and progressed. But you know what, Tim, we're gonna have you back for multiple episodes of Hello Tech Pros on Tech Thursdays and on Productivity Tuesdays and maybe Entrepreneurship Saturdays to talk about all this kind of stuff. But today is, what is today? Today is People Friday. Hello,
People Friday.
Where are we
yes.
at? People Friday on Hello Tech Pros. And you know what? It's not what you know in many cases. It's who you know and how you relate with them and how you create relationships with people and how you communicate with people and not over a 300 pod modem.
That's right.
Cool. So, you've been doing a lot of work in the last couple of decades, and we were kind of chatting before the show about all the technical things that you and I have done in the past and continue to do today are very, very interesting, but none of it kind of means anything unless you have like a team in place, unless you're connecting with people, unless you're building relationships. So give me your perspective on this stuff, dude. Why is people and relationships and communication, when you're a tech person, when you're a tech pro, when you're building websites and when you're doing all this awesome stuff, why is people so important to you?
Sure. Well, I mean, big thing is so I am in addition or in collusion with having the technical background. I'm a business owner, and ultimately I could have gone to work for someone else with my tech background. Even that requires knowing the right people. But definitely as a business owner. I mean, I've got to know the right people to get staff. I've got to know the right people to choose vendors to help with things that are not our kind of our core competencies. And I've got to know people to get business. I mean, most of our business is through referrals. So it's not just a one time to get a job. I have to know someone. For me, it's every new piece of business. Not literally everyone. I mean, obviously we get leads off of our website. You would hope so, right? We're an online
Hmm.
marketing company, but a significant number of the business we do is through referrals, and sometimes it's even through repeat customers. And so knowing those people and treating them right over time. I just talked with someone yesterday that I'm meeting with in a few days here, who got a website from us 5 years ago. Well, if I hadn't kept in touch that whole time and communicated with them, they would have moved on to whoever gave them a call, because there are people out there competing, being proactive, competing for business. Some people are passive, it's true, but some people are being proactive, calling and knocking on doors and calling, ringing the phone. And so if I hadn't stayed in touch with that particular client, high likelihood they would have gone with someone else.
Hmm.
And so, and of course, there's the whole professional growth, right? You want to continue to grow, and a lot of that's through surrounding yourself by people who are better than you at what you want to get better at, and then just giving back. I mean, giving back, at least for me, and I know for many of us, is a huge thing. And so it's hard to help people if you don't know people, and so getting to know people from that standpoint is huge as well. So really, for me, it's just kind of a way of life. I know some, obviously, we use a lot of technology, and my background's tech, but kind of the online marketing field, there are people that don't, aside from strategy, don't do any implementation themselves. They couldn't build a website, they couldn't write a blog or design a flyer. It's through the people they know that they're able to actually run their whole business. So for me, it's huge, and it's key, especially if you're ever wanting to go out on your own, either as a freelancer or as a business owner, which are two different things, by the way. I won't get on that soapbox right now,
Cool.
but
Cool.
yeah, you've just got to know people in order. I mean, you can fake your way through skills and know people, but if all you have are skills and don't know people, it's hard to fake your way through that. And so I know people who haven't known what they're doing, and the only way they got business was because they knew the right people. Flip side, I've known people who are super smart, very tech savvy, whatever the programming language is or whatever the technology was they're using, and had no people skills.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, those people aren't going anywhere either. So.
Hmm. Man, that's painful. That's so painful to me personally, Tim. Let me tell you why. Is
Okay.
because I used to be one of those people. I used to be one of those tech folks who was, very confident about my skills and constantly brushing up on the latest and greatest, constantly, working nights and weekends, not to try to like get ahead and to prove myself in corporate America, but really just because I was a nerd and because
Sure.
I love doing it and I love practicing on it and I love being on the forefront, and that was always very, very rewarding to me personally. But what got me so frustrated time and time again in the early parts of my career, maybe even the whole first decade or decade and a half of my career, was the fact that even though in many cases I was rocking and rolling and getting things done and being highly productive, and I knew what I was talking about when I was talking about technology, very few people asked me about technology. And I saw other people in the organizations that I worked with and other people who started companies on the side be much more successful than me about growing the career, growing their business. And I just had a lot of jealousy and resentment because I said, why are these guys and girls doing all this amazing stuff and getting all these deals and getting promotions when I'm over here like working like a champ, like trying to knock it all out, and I'm solving so many problems and I'm building so many awesome technical things, but I'm not getting the recognition that I feel that I deserve. So, there may be a lot of audience members that are out there that are kind of resonating with that, right? Maybe they're in a position where they're a developer, or they're a graphic designer, or they're whatever, they're a server administrator, right? Whatever role that they're in, they're awesome at that role, but maybe they feel down in the dumps because other people are getting the promotions and getting the, building their businesses and being successful at their side hustles and all this kind of stuff, because they're just kind of more people-y, you know what I
Right.
mean? They're just kind of more social folks. Is that fair to those individuals? And then, what should they do about it?
Yeah, so it's not fair. I mean, there's nothing wrong. In fact, it's a good thing to be passionate about what you're doing, to love it. And there are plenty of people that purely as hobby learn whatever the technical skill is, or even non-technical skills,
Mm-hmm.
but that love learning, love getting better, love increasing their knowledge base. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think that's a good thing.
Cool.
But it's just amazing, like you're talking about, the power of combining someone who's really good at what they do and really have a passion for it with someone that actually communicates well, builds their network well. It's almost a joke in IT about getting an IT person that can actually talk to people in a way they can understand. And that's unfortunate, but it's true. And so what it means is, right, there's, the different potential combinations. You can be great at what you do and passionate about it and not good at working with people. You can be great at working with people and not good at the technical side. And you're still going to be ahead of the technical person, at least for a period of time. But the most powerful, combining them both. And that's how you get the promotions, the business. That's how you advance yourself in your business, because it turns out communication is one of those skills, good communication and a good network that really crosses boundaries. I mean, I've seen people change industries completely, but they were able to still maintain that network of contacts they had and quickly build up their book of business in whatever the new industry was.
Yeah, I've seen people come into organizations brand new from scratch, don't know the industry, don't know the team, don't know anything about it, right? And I'm sitting there resentful going, who is this noob? Right? They're completely out of their element. They're going to be lost. Like, I've been here for X number of years, and I know the ins and outs on how everything is pulled together, and within days they're talking to people that I've never met in the organization before. They're having lunch meetings with VPs of different organizations, and they're bringing in new business, and they're doing all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that person is doing something that I clearly am out of my element. I don't know how they're doing it, and that's a big reason why I started, this episode, this phase, or these topics, the People Friday, is because of that aha moment that I had many years ago when I was like, you know what, I do kind of suck on my communication skills. Maybe not suck, maybe that's a hard word, but I'm extremely introverted, right? Crippling
Sure.
introverted. Why I don't talk to people. When I do, I think I do okay, but I just don't like having to practice that. I don't like having to build relationships. I just want my technical skills to speak for itself. And to your point, like, what would be the best is combining those, or the next best is just knowing the communication and just
Right.
being awesome at people skills. And then third best is being in the position I was, right, which is being strong technically, but not out there socially. So what can we do? Like, if our audience is like, you know what, I'm in that position, but I want to get better. Like, what are some steps that we can do to start, first of all, recognizing that we have this situation, and second of all, like, really start upping our game? And can you like practice communication? Can you get skill development and people skills? What do we do?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So I'll start with the disclaimer that I am not introverted, so that is not the place I come from.
Yeah.
Now, that does not mean I was good at communication. Okay, those are two different things.
Yep.
So just because I would naturally talk, in fact, if I sat down with someone that was introverted and I'm extroverted and I have no self awareness, much less have changed anything about my habits, I'm going to dominate the conversation. They're going to hate the conversation we had. I'll think it's awesome because I got to talk the whole time. They're left with a completely different impression.
Hmm.
And so I think really the first thing is being self-aware.
Hmm.
And so I am actually in an ongoing class, and it's actually a nationwide organization. But called Sandler Training, and so they do training for leadership management. They do a lot of significant amount of sales training as well, but a big portion of that is communication. And so I actually went through their more formal, hey, here's our systems and procedures. Here's how you can find out how other people like to communicate. And it turns out that was a big key to it, is identifying early on when you're speaking with someone else, how do they like to communicate, and then you communicate the way they want to be communicated with, right? So it's not do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's do unto others as they want you to do unto them. And so we actually in Sandler and now in our business and even in my personal life, we use the DISC model. It's DISC, and of course I'm going to forget what all the things stand for, but dominance, influencer, so that's a social person. That's what I am. S stands for, I don't think it's security, but it's something about stability. And then C is compliance, meaning you're a rule follower.
Hmm.
So if you kind of identify, hey, what you're talking with someone, you can pick up on clues of what style are they, or what, it may be one, they may have one style and then a secondary style as well, both of which are prominent. But you communicate with them how they want to be communicated based on that. And obviously it gets, there's a lot of details, and it's something you just have to practice a lot. But we'll use that DISC model, and we've gone out to eat as a team here at work and started like identifying our different fictional characters and trying to figure out their disc
Nice.
styles. So we've gone through like the Harry Potter characters, we've gone through the Star Trek characters, Star Wars characters, and just identify, hey, what's their disc style? But then the other half of that, after you identify, you've got to like adjust to them. So it actually helps on our team here. Nobody else is the disc style I am, and so I actually have to adjust my style to fit their needs. So most of my team members around here are kind of slow to react to change. They need time to adjust. They can get overwhelmed easier, where I'll kind of blow through things without a plan. And so literally like telling them about things ahead of time makes them feel way more comfortable. And that's all you're trying to do, is just make the other person feel comfortable when you're communicating with them. I mean, you want it to be effective communication, but a huge portion of it is just, hey, how do I make them feel comfortable? And so I think it is, if you learn a model, and a model is only a model, right? It's only as it's kind of a shortcut. It doesn't completely encapsulate everything about that person by any means,
Hmm.
but it's a good little shortcut for finding out how people like to communicate. And so learning to identify that quickly, and then actually practicing communicating with people. I've found email is a great way to practice, because you can write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite the email
Hmm.
before clicking send. I have not yet found a way to do that in live conversation. So email for our team at least has been a great way to actually practice that once we identify. And then for us, a culture, and we've been able on a company wide level to establish just a culture of, hey, that's one of the things we talk about is people's disc model, disc style, so that we can more effectively communicate with them. So it's something that you come to work at TNS and you're going to hear everybody talking about that.
Awesome. Cool stuff. Tim, in just a moment, I want to dive down into, the specific steps that you can take to really gain this self-awareness, right? Because that sounds like it's the most critical key step in the journey, right? Is to, before you implement a model and determine out, what your style is, you really got to be self-aware of how you're communicating and how other people perceive you communicating. So I want to ask you about that. But first, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Burdine. Siri and OK Google are fun for party tricks, but 97% of smartphone users don't like talking to their phones in public. It's kind of weird. When was the last time you were at the mall and heard someone say, "Siri, what's my wife's dress size?" Or, "OK Google, where did I park my car?" Some things are better left unspoken. Burdine remembers the things you care about and reminds you discreetly through text messages. Names, dates, places, ideas, to-do lists. Burdine never forgets and is always there to remind you. You don't need to install an app, just text Burdine a statement and she'll remember. Text her a question and she'll answer. Burdine is the only contact you have to have on your phone. Meet Burdine at burdine.com. That's BURDENE.com. Or text Burdine to 480-418-1411. Outside the U.S., be sure to use the country code +1. So for non-U.S. residents, text +1 480-418-1411 with a message Burdine. Okay, we're back with Tim Priebe. We've been talking to Tim about not only about all the techie stuff that he and I have worked on since 1990, way back in the day, but also as communication styles that both he and I have had over the course of our careers, as well as how we've seen other people's styles and how it has either positively or negatively affect their careers and affect their business. And so specifically, we talked about, if you're in a technical position, there's like three layers of kind of best, good, and average, or not as good, or maybe gold, silver, platinum, gold, whatever. three levels that we talked about. We'll get it straight here on the show notes page. But three levels of awesomeness when you can combine your tech and your communication skills. Obviously, the best, that platinum, that gold star, would be having the combination of both very, very savvy relationship building and communication styles, as well as being just a rock star technical professional, right? But the next one underneath that, surprisingly, is not the technical skills, it's the people skills. It's having the communication, the relationship building, that social awareness, because you can get more things done by having relationships with other people than you can just like coding your way out of it or teching your way out of it. And so unfortunately for me, that meant a large portion of my career was maybe challenged because I had these tech skills, but were not practicing and working on my people skills, my relationship skills. And Tim, that's because I was not self-aware. Maybe I was not aware that I needed to change, right? I thought that I knew that I wasn't working on my communication skills, and I had a lot of self-confidence issues around my communication styles. But I didn't have the self-awareness to know that I could change and I could grow and I could adapt my communication style to match what other people wanted. So, what can we do to really assess ourselves and just be aware? You said that you've always been more outgoing, more extroverted, whereas I used to be a lot more introverted than I am today. But had you not come to a place of self-awareness, your extroversion would be that you kind of dominate every conversation and not realize that people think you're, dude, will this Tim guy or will this Chad guy on this episode like ever shut up? What do you think about that?
No, it's definitely true, and it's the unfortunate aspect of that is the self-awareness, right? You can't. It's great to have other people tell you if you have someone you're that close to that they'll tell you, and maybe that's a good thing to do is ask for some feedback. But ultimately, you have to kind of own it, right? The whole self-awareness part of it. You've got to own it and decide, hey, this is an area I want to improve on. And then, man, my typical thing I do whenever any area where I kind of gain that self awareness of, hey, I need to improve on this, and trust me, it's happened in a lot of areas. But my first thing is start seeking out knowledge, and I'm not, for better or worse, I'm not terribly particular. I'll just kind of start soaking everything up, and then at some point, I kind of grasp on to some model that makes sense or resonates. And we're for me, and hopefully everyone does this, but you kind of compare, hey, does this model jive with what I've seen in the real world? And if it does, it's worth exploring. And then the other question is, can it help me? Because sometimes you have models that, yeah, that's a great representation, but what am I going to do with that? And so, really, with anything, including your any deficiencies you have in people skills or communication skills, I mean, you've got to come to the conclusion yourself, but then just start seeking out. Be thirsty for knowledge. Start seeking it out, and really drinking it up, and looking into all the different options, and ask for advice from others. Ask them if there's anything they've used, or I mean, that's really my connection. The guy that runs our Sandler training office, where I am, he was completely through a connection. He was actually proactive and reached out to me, but it was through a network I'd built up of people and contacts that he actually came across me. And so sometimes it even helps passively, but yeah, just talk to other people, reach out to other people, and say, hey, how can I improve myself? And the other thing is, be willing to invest in yourself, time, money. It's not, I mean, honestly, Sandler Training is not an inexpensive investment on a monthly basis for here. I'm fortunate in that I have a company, my company, but I have a company backing it, which is a little easier than, trying to pay for something like that on an individual basis. But there are people that do that also. And so invest time and money in yourself if you want to improve. It's amazing. With a lot of things, it's amazing what just a small investment will make over free. There's nothing wrong with free, but one easy qualifier that's not an absolute, but is if you actually pay a little bit for something, a lot of times that makes a huge difference in the amount of quality. Definitely.
Yeah, that and the fact that you're actually going to implement it, or at least I'm going to implement it, right? So I read a lot of blogs, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I get a lot of great advice from people for free all the time. But there have been many things like workout programs, like I get all this advice for free on what I should be eating and how far I should be running and what kind of weights I should be lifting. I'm like, yeah, I need to do that. But you know what? If I'm paying $50 a month for a gym membership, holy mackerel, that is a huge motivator for me personally, because I hate wasting money. I hate wasting money. And if I'm investing in something, I'm going to treat it as an investment, and I'm going to actually take action on it, and I'm going to listen. Especially if I was getting one-on-one coaching, whether it be from like a workout person, or a personal assistant, or not a personal assistant, personal coach, or in this case, like you're getting coaching from this company, then I would, if I was paying for it, especially if it came out of my pocket, then I would definitely stand up and listen. Now, Sandler, were you talking to Mr. Mike Crandall?
I was, yes.
Hey, you know what? Mike was a past guest on Hello Tech Pros. So if you want to know, if you listeners and you, Tim, want to know about what Mike taught me, we talked about you got to have guts and self-awareness. So, hey, these two episodes we're kind of combining. We're making some good stuff happen here. So you have to have self-awareness, right? You have to know where you're strong and where you're weak, and lean on the strong stuff, but also look at the weak areas and either augment that through training or hire somebody else in your company to kind of balance you out, or find a startup founder, partner, person who can balance you out or something like that. But then you got to have guts. So if you want to change, if you want to make a difference, you have to have guts. You have to be gutsy. And what Mike says in that episode is you only have to be gutsy 5 seconds at a time. So if you think of any question that you've ever asked, any statement that you've ever made, anything that makes you nervous, kind of sweat inside or on the outside, just throw it out there. Just throw it out to the universe and say, hey, I would love to get some advice from you on XYZ, but I'm really nervous, but I'm going to ask anyway. And you never know what kind of response you're going to get.
Absolutely, and it's all about it's all about those small. Mike says this all the time, but small incremental change. I mean, books like the Slight Edge Principle, or books like the Compound Effect, both great books that essentially are like, hey, there's no major one. Turns out there's no one major thing typically that you have to do. You're not going to get internet famous and find all of a sudden that you're great at communicating, or you're great at business, or you're great at even a tech thing. It's all about that small incremental change and just little small decisions you make of, hey, I said I was going to work on this, so what's my next step? I need to do that. And sometimes those little small steps do take guts, definitely. And kind of, even if guts is just, hey, most of the time, it's all your perception too. It's not really that big of a deal. You just feel awkward about it, but it's all about a feeling you have internally. And then that's to bring it full circle. That's with communication. I mean, you feel awkward a lot of times in changing your communication style because it doesn't come naturally to you. Now, you may connect with people who have the same communication style as you. You may not, but just taking that really small thing and making it a conscious effort, and then working on that. But yeah, it definitely does take guts sometimes, that's for sure.
Man, Tim, I really love what you said there. A lot of times it's because you feel awkward on the inside about changing your communication style, about adapting something new, because it's new and it's different and you've never done it before. And it's like, I've never gone skydiving. I've never done bungee jumping because that just feels weird. Like looking at other people do it. I don't know. Other people are like, "Oh man, that's awesome! It's such a rush. It's amazing. It's totally safe. Like you're not gonna die." But I'm like, I don't know. It's awkward. It's different. I don't know that I trust the engineers who built that equipment.
Sure.
And but feeling awkward on the inside, especially about your own styles and the way that you relate to people, or the direction that you're taking in your life, and knowing that you need to shift and not being comfortable with that's pretty huge.
And a lot of times, especially if it's in a conversation you're having with other people, I mean, literally just telling them you feel awkward about it will greatly decrease your feeling of awkwardness. It's amazing how, I mean, obviously I feel no awkwardness about talking with other people, but I used to feel awkward about talking about money with other people. And guess what? If I'm making sales or wanting to make sales, at some point I've got to talk about money. But early on, when I still felt really awkward about that, I would literally just tell them, hey, I got to be honest, this is kind of awkward for me, but we've got to talk about money. And so that's something that can carry over, because it's just amazing how when I said that, the feeling didn't evaporate, but it was greatly alleviated. And over time, I don't say that anymore because it would be a lie now. And so I've kind of trained myself. But definitely early on, when you're making changes like that, or just asking for feedback, you can say, hey, listen, this is kind of awkward for me, but I'm trying to improve myself. What can you see that I need improvement on as far as communication goes, as far as relationships go? And then be open. The other thing with self-awareness, obviously, to kind of bring it back to that, is you've got to be open to hearing what others say as well, and really give them, I mean, number one, if it's their perception, it's their perception, right? You can't argue that that's their perception, because it is, unless they're literally just lying to you, right? Which is not hopefully not common with the people you're talking to about this. But if it's their perception, there's validity to it. And so just being open for that feedback, and that's probably one of the areas that has gotten me where I'm at communication-wise, people-wise, connection-wise, business-wise, is just being open. Hey, being open to feedback and using that feedback, actually making those, like you're saying, once you get that awareness, you've got to, and gotten the knowledge, you've got to execute. And so, if anything, that's been one of my strengths, is being willing to listen to what other people have to say.
Awesome. Great stuff. Well, Tim, we've got 2 days over this weekend to really study and reflect and figure out what we want to do to change our communication style and move our relationship needle up to the next notch. Man, I'm struggling today. Yeah, Chad is going to work on his communication style over the weekend, and I'm going to work on the English language quite a bit. So before we go, can you share some parting words of wisdom for the audience, the best way that we can connect with you? And then we'll say goodbye.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, really, again, the key is to communicate with people how they want to communicate. And it's amazing what relationships you can build up when you do that. And it may even take guts on your part sometimes. It may hurt. It may feel awkward. But if you communicate with people how they want to communicate, it makes all the difference in the world. How to connect with me? Personally, you can follow me on Twitter at Tim J. That's Tim, the letter J, and then Priebe, which I'm sure will be in the show notes, but it's P as in Peter, R-I-E, B as in boy, E. On the other social platforms, I tend to only connect with people I know, although you can follow me on LinkedIn. I post articles on LinkedIn. From a company standpoint, if you like online marketing for some crazy reason, you can visit our website at tandsgo.com. That's TANDSGO.com. And then actually, if you add a /newsletter on the front there, you can sign up. There's actually a few different newsletters, but you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter if you would like to get some insight from us about online marketing. And some of those articles are written by me, some by my team members. Super easy to unsubscribe if you don't like it.
And online marketing is really about connecting with people online, right? Absolutely. It's about having relationships, building those communications, learning how to talk to your customers or potential customers and leads about the awesome products and services that you're doing, whether you're selling software as a service or something else. So if you want to improve your communication style online and resonate with people, then you might want to check out Tim's newsletter there.
Yeah, and we definitely take the whole communicate with people how they want to be communicated with and what they want to learn about. So it's not we don't teach the promotion school of marketing, definitely. So it's all about getting people information they want to have, not what you want them to have. But anyway, that's a whole nother soapbox I could get into for another half hour.
Awesome. We'll have to bring you back for a whole nother show just to talk about that. Tim, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value your insight and your wisdom and your stories and appreciate you taking time out of your busy Friday to spend time with us.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Tech Pros, wherever you are, there is room for improvement. Communication and relationship building is absolutely critical to building your career and building your business. So if you think that you're pretty good at it, then you can be great at it. You just got to put some effort into it. If you think that you suck at it and you're never going to be any good, I don't know, you might suck, but you can get better. So first, be self-aware of not just your ego, what you think you're good at and not good at, but really reach out to friends and colleagues and say, hey, where do you see my strong suit? What am I good at? What am I not good at? Go find a coach. Go find someone who can give you some honest feedback about this and work on it. Apply it, and get better, improve, and you will see your career grow. You will see your businesses grow. And I can't wait to see all the awesome things you're going to do. You've been listening to Tim Priebe, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/96. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been People Friday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I discuss entrepreneurship. On Sunday, being unplugged. Monday, motivation. Tuesday, productivity. Wednesday, leadership. Thursday, technology. And then back again on Friday to talk people and communication. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.